Welcome to NFTE's teacher pre-recorded webinar PD on Staying Focused, How to Maintain the Entrepreneurial Lens While Learning About Careers. We will review the objectives, why careers and entrepreneurship are related, identify existing tools to support entrepreneurial thinking in the Exploring Careers text, extension activities, and then questions to consider after the webinar. It may be useful for you to have your Teacher's Wraparound Edition for Exploring Careers and your Entrepreneurship Workbook, but it is not required for this webinar. As a result of participating in this webinar, you will be able to explain the value of learning about careers and entrepreneurship by blending the concepts, identify existing curricular tools to ensure entrepreneurial lens in all of your Exploring Careers lessons, and construct new suggestions and sources to enhance your entrepreneurial thinking for the 21st century program. Before we get started, write down the answers to these questions. Do you believe learning entrepreneurship is related to career exploration? If so, how are entrepreneurship and careers related? This is a question that we get at NFTE very frequently, particularly around the Exploring Careers curriculum and the development of it. Teachers struggle to integrate entrepreneurship throughout the program, and part of what we'll cover today in our discussion will be how to ensure that the entrepreneurial lens is always in focus. So why careers and entrepreneurship? Our traditional 11th edition program that focuses solely on business plan development gets students thinking about opportunity recognition, market research, marketing, and financials, but doesn't spend a lot of time on getting students to think about what their interests are and how their skills are related to those interests. The Exploring Careers program complements the 11th edition program in that it offers entrepreneurship, personal skills development, and also the career requirements and exploration elements that younger students tend to need. Entrepreneurship, careers, and personal skills are related in that they can help students understand their interests, set goals, learn how to communicate and work with others, and identify activities in and out of school to help students achieve their goals. It can also help students understand how the skills they have today can be further developed in order to reach their larger educational, personal, and professional goals. The 13 required chapters for the Exploring Careers program are divided into 3 standard units of learning. These vary slightly from office to office. The first is Exploring Careers, chapters 1 through 4. The second, Professional Skills and Teamwork, chapters 6 through 11 and 16. And finally, Entrepreneurship, chapters 5, 17, and 18. Although these appear to be separate units that cover separate topics, NFTE's program integrates entrepreneurship through our activities and the business pitch deliverable. On this slide, we break down the Business Expo component deliverables by unit. In Unit 1, students generate their business ideas and come up with one opportunity. In Unit 2, they describe that opportunity and the core beliefs for their business and their goals. And finally, in Unit 3, students describe their market research methods and how they'll get the message out to their target populations. The good news is you don't have to rely exclusively on the Business Expo activities to connect entrepreneurship throughout the curriculum. In the textbook, every chapter has 2 feature boxes: Be Your Own Boss and Career Profile included in the student text, and Entrepreneurial Connections at the end of every chapter in the Teacher's Wraparound Edition. Let's take a look at an example together. Chapter 3 focuses on the value around work, both educational and personal. The Be Your Own feature box in the chapter asks students to consider how being an entrepreneur can impact a lifestyle, how a person can measure the value of work as an entrepreneur. This directly connects to the chapter content and where the feature box shows up. For you as a teacher in the Teacher's Wraparound Edition, you'll see notes for appropriate answers for students. This can be a great pair and share activity. It can also be an opportunity for students to do some independent work or debate. The career profile on page 47 features a flight attendant. You could ask students to research or consider how flight attendants are entrepreneurial or need to be in their everyday work. And finally, on page 51, Entrepreneurial Connections asks students to consider 2 risks and 2 rewards of being an entrepreneur. You don't need to wait until the end of the chapter, even though it shows up there. You can actually integrate it potentially into the Be Your Own Boss activity or the career profile. You can have students consider risks and rewards of being an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurial flight attendant, for example. Another great but underutilized resource is the Entrepreneurship Workbook. For most chapters, this includes 5 to 7 pages of worksheets that connect the chapter content to entrepreneurship. For our example, Chapter 3, on page 15, it asks, imagine you are an entrepreneur and you are set to start your own business. Describe your ideal or dream situation for each of the following lifestyle factors: location, environment, education, salary, etc. Teachers who do use this workbook primarily use it to assess comprehension, but you can also have students do these activities as lead-ins or do-nows before introducing the topic or a chapter. Then, after they actually learn the topic or concept, they can revisit their responses and discuss in small groups or as a class. So for our example about lifestyles, a student may think they understand what these lifestyle factors mean, but then need to go back after learning about them because they may not have understood what education or salary specifically means. To support our teachers and help keep focus on entrepreneurship, NFTE created activities for each core chapter. These activities include a business development component. If you look at the business development component for this chapter, you'll see we connect the initial skit development around a career to students considering the economic, educational, and emotional values of work for an entrepreneur. For the pair and share, we integrate the Entrepreneurial Connections activity to link the text to our activity. You can access all of the NFTE lesson plans on Connect in our new Entrepreneurial Thinking for the 21st Century program guide, also on Connect. If you're looking for extension or additional activities to enhance the entrepreneurial components in this program, you could use entrepreneurial case studies. There are several at the end of the 11th edition. These cases are about young entrepreneurs and highlight both business and career skills. 1098 Shoot for the Moon is a small reader that includes great tips and stories about young entrepreneurs. There are about 10 total, so you could use these when you're focused on the sort of non-entrepreneurship chapters. Another great activity is to ask students to interview an entrepreneur in a specific career area of interest. The students can create posters or presentations to share with the class. And depending on when you integrate this activity, you'd want to ensure that you can connect it to the chapter content. So questions that students might ask these entrepreneurs which should be relevant to the chapter content. A through Z, Characteristics of the Entrepreneur, is a great website that includes some great quotes from authors, entrepreneurs, and leaders about the necessary skills to be an entrepreneur. You can integrate this by having students explain the entrepreneurial characteristics or use one a day and connect it to relevant chapter content. And finally, you should be leveraging NFTE volunteers. Volunteers bring the real world into your NFTE classroom, and that's a very important component to entrepreneurship and career development. Ask guest speakers to talk about how they're entrepreneurial in their everyday work so that students can understand that they can think like entrepreneurs but don't always have to go be an entrepreneur. Consider the upcoming entrepreneurship chapters you'll teach and identify what resources you'll use to highlight the entrepreneurial lens. Which of these resources exist? What other tools or examples have you used in your class that you feel other teachers would benefit from? Post these on Nifty Connect's forums and see what other teachers are doing and saying. Thank you for listening to this webinar. We hope it helped remind you of some of the resources you have and that you'll use some of our additional activities. To access this webinar and other Exploring Careers resources, visit niftyconnect.org. If you have any questions or want to share some of your great teaching tips with other Nifty teachers from around the world, contact us. We'd love to hear from you.